Welcome, and thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that cater to CRE newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Jessica LaRusso, Regional Director at Crexi, and today we are thrilled to sit down with Todd Hamilton. A little bit about our guest. Todd Hamilton, managing member and founder of Citywide Commercial and Hamilton Property Management, specializes in tailored investment, leasing, and property management strategies for industrial property owners. With 27 years in the industry, Todd has overseen transactions exceeding 155 million square feet, serving clients with an unwavering commitment to excellence and to consistently deliver results. Todd's expertise and professionalism make him a trusted advisor in commercial real estate, where his insights continue to shape prosperous outcomes for industrial property ventures. He has consistently been recognized as a top producing industrial broker and received a number of industry awards from prestigious organizations, including CCIM, SIOR, and ULI.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Welcome to the podcast.
This is my very first podcast, so be gentle. But
let's go. Oh, absolutely. No, we're very happy to have you here.
Review some other podcasts, and I happened to see Joe Rogan, and I noticed that he was wearing the headset, and so I figured, okay, it's worth doing. Yeah,
you got the look,
and I saw that one with Elon Musk, and so I'm ready. I've got everything. I'm ready. If you make me too nervous, I'm ready to go with a little bit of a calming factor. Anyway.
All right. Well, I got to fire it at you then, Todd. Well, awesome. I know we just covered a lot about your background, but I'd love to learn and kind of start off with your career path and some lessons that you learned along the way. So can you tell us where you're from and really how you got your start?
I was born and raised in Des Moines, Iowa. Came out to Phoenix, Arizona at 14 to start high school, and then from there I went to ASU and I worked all during college. I was in a fraternity, SAE, but so kept very busy, and I was working as a banker all during college, and I was a finance major at ASU, and so I didn't exactly know what I was going to do out of college, so I was a finance major, and so I figured banking was a good start. So I've been here since 86, and I love Arizona. It's so great. I love the growth, everything about it.
It's beautiful. I mean, gosh, has grown so much tremendously since you first got there. How did you transition over from the financial sector to commercial real estate?
Right when I got out of college, I wanted to be a stockbroker. I thought that's exactly what I wanted to do. I love numbers. I love equity and ownership and so forth. And so I ended up getting a job right out of college at Bank One, and it was a great promotion. I thought it was all the money in the world. I was making so much more money than all my other peers, and I thought this is great. However, the banking world is pretty boring. At least it was for me. It was retail banking. So I'd go into the branch. I would watch the clock all day and just wish for the day to be gone. And I said to myself, this is not the path I want to, this is not the life I want to live. And so I said, I need to figure out what I can do to make money with the money that I made. And I figured I wasn't probably going to own a bank. Mm-hmm. So I was really interested in commercial real estate and real estate in general. So I figured, okay, if I want to invest in commercial real estate and own commercial real estate and maybe own a brokerage or management company, whatever, what's the best way to do that? And so my roommate was working for a small brokerage in Phoenix, and he decided to go follow his dreams in California. And I said, you know what, I'll take that job. So it's kind of unusual for me to take that kind of risk because I was kind of the banker mentality. I like the, I kind of like the 8 to 5, but I didn't, it was boring, but I like the security of it. So I made the leap to the smaller brokerage. It was a big risk, but I figured if I could learn brokerage, I think that's the biggest part of making real estate work. If you can understand how to value a building, how to fill a building, and then how to ultimately sell it, I think you would be successful in commercial real estate ownership. And so that's what I did. I ended up taking that job, and I was at that firm for 22 years until I started Citywide Commercial with a couple of partners.
Wow, that's amazing career path. So early on, when you kind of made your transition over there, right, with that first brokerage, did you have a mentor or someone that really helped you along the way?
I have two people that stick out in my mind, but when you think about mentorship, I think if you kind of look at every human being, good or every person has something to offer, and so even if they're a very bad person, I mean, they generally have a little something you can take or learn from them. So I consider so many people that I just try to consider everyone mentors and try to pick a little something out of someone. But if I had two to really focus on, a guy by the name of Rod Crotty, he and I worked hand in hand. The reason why I like this smaller brokerage, you get to do everything from property ownership, property management. You had a lot of, he was empowered to do a lot with the properties that he had. So I worked hand in hand with him. He works from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. And so did I for many, many years. And so to be able to have him right in the office, right next door to me, and I pestered the heck out of him. It was just so valuable to be in that environment and be next to him and learn everything about real estate. And then the second person, big landlord here in the Phoenix market, Daryl Burton. He and he was probably my first biggest client, and I nearly lost him initially because I didn't know what I was doing, but I ultimately fixed that problem quick. But he was patient with me, and he's brilliant, and so being able to work so closely with him, and just how such a smart landlord thinks and operates, that was invaluable. But I nearly didn't have that opportunity. So the story goes, I was put on the listing when I first got in the business. I was put on the listing. My buddy that was leaving the company said, "I'll train you, and here's a great landlord, and here's a great new listing that we have, and just go out and lease up the space." And I'm like, "Okay, great. How do you do that?" And he was already checked out. So so I did my best figuring out how to lease up space, and I ultimately, it was a tough situation because I had no direction. And Rod was busy doing his thing, and my buddy was busy, leaving. And so I remember walking the property with Daryl, and he basically said, "Hey, this is it. You got to lease up some space quickly, or we've got to do something different." So I remember that weekend I went down to some art store. This was back in 1997. I went to some art store, and I commandeered Rod. I said, "Rod, help me. I can't lose this opportunity." So so I went down to an art store, and I bought all these easels and I put together all this marketing, and I went door to door. I was relentless. I remember being on a treadmill working out and having the availability spreadsheet on the treadmill, just memorizing, okay, 2917 North 35th Avenue is this square footage, this power, this. I knew everything about every space. And so I was just laser focused on making Daryl happy. And within 6 months, we had every space, me had every space leased, and Daryl was happy. And he said, you know what? You're not such a failure. So I will give you another opportunity. So he gave me another another building to lease, and then another property. And so I just kept growing my portfolio with Daryl and learning along the way. And it was just a fantastic opportunity, but it was almost not, it almost didn't happen.
No, that's an incredible story. I mean, so you had to learn a lot on the fly, right? It sounds like you were kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit on that one. Do you have anything else maybe early on in your career that you can think about was like a favorite mistake or something that was really tough at the time, but turned out to be a really kind of pivotal lesson down the road?
So many mistakes, right? But if you're not making mistakes, you're not working hard enough. I'll never forget how
True.
I just think, I don't know how valuable this is, but I remember wanting to do this church deal over at this Daryl's listing. And when I worked at the bank, we did a lot with Habit for Humanity. I think that I said that right. But anyway, where you build houses and things like that. So, and I still had a group of volunteers that I was still friends with. And so I said to the church, I go, hey, what we'll do is let's take the space as is. I'll get a bunch of my volunteers over. We'll start knocking down walls. We'll make this space just great. And a little thing I forgot was a permit. And that things that you really have to do things properly. You just can't go in and start knocking down walls in an industrial building. Yeah, exactly. I thought, that's a win-win. I mean, I'll save the landlord some money, and I will, I'll make good on this. Church will have a great space. So I don't know if that was a mistake, but I guess I guess I just went ahead and did something, and it was an innocent mistake, and it didn't ultimately happen that way. But that was my sales pitch. But that was a little mistake. But I can't think of any specific mistakes, even though there's just so many that if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing enough business. Yeah.
Learning as you go, right? No, I love that. So in our prep call, you mentioned that you really love talking with young people about getting into commercial real estate. Can you share a little bit more about that corner of your life?
I think one of the best things about starting Citywide Commercial, it enables me to have a big reach, and people are coming to me and saying, hey, I'd like to interview, or I'd like to do an internship program, or whatever the case is. And it was just, I met the president of the ASU Real Estate Club the other day, and he said, hey, I'd love to see you come out and talk to our group. And so I invited a couple of other brokers to come along. We sat on a stage, talked, and kind of mentored these young people. And it was pretty amazing that on a Thursday night, they are sitting listening to me. Because I'll tell you, when I was in college, on a Thursday night, I wouldn't be sitting listening to me. I'd be out at doing whatever, but I wouldn't be listening to some guy talk about real estate. So that was just such a wonderful experience, and just I ended up hanging out with that group for another hour, and I just felt like the Pied Piper. I mean, everything I said, they were just so interested in, and it was really rewarding. And I have a 16-year-old son, and I'd love to see him get into the business. And so the way I see it, if you give, you pass along all your knowledge to a younger group, they're gonna help out the younger group, that's coming up the ranks. And so hopefully they ultimately help my son. So I think if you give what you get what you give. So
that's amazing. So somebody, let's say like brand new or a member of that group, right? They haven't gotten into commercial real estate yet. What would be some of the best advice, maybe a couple key points for those that are just starting to break into the industry?
I guess really set your expectations that this is it's a hard job. If you don't like people, you probably shouldn't go into brokerage. It's a relationship business, and you're always talking to people. You're always networking. And if that is not what you want to do, don't pursue it. Because if you don't have the passion for it, if I didn't have the passion for commercial real estate and ultimately owning a brokerage, I don't know if I would have made it, because you have some very tough days. You get a lot of no's, and you have to knock on a lot of doors. I'll never forget when I first started. Rod Crotty said, "All right, here are a bunch of flyers, and if you want to fill your building, just go door to door." And I said, "What? Go door to? I'm a finance major from ASU. I mean, I'm super special here. Okay, I'm brilliant. I'm not going to go door to door sales. I'm not that kind of guy." So he says, "Well, that's what you have to do." So I went door to door and picked up a client. I mean, it's a real simple business, right? It's you find a tenant that needs another space or wants to buy a building, and you move that tenant out, and you have a space to lease to someone else. So, I mean, it's real simple. It gets technical, when you get into the deal, but fundamentally, you have to be willing to go door to door, make a lot of dials, and so my recommendation would be, if you're interested in commercial real estate, figure out exactly what you want to do. I know it's hard to do, but if you try to pick your food group, if it's apartments, if it's land, if it's office, industrial, what's your passion? What's interesting to you? I love industrial because every space is kind of different. You have different loading, different clear heights, different power. And so it's easier for me to match tenants and buyers up to spaces that are not just commodities. So anyway, so I would say specialize and network, and make sure that you stay connected to the people that you go to college with and your mentors, and just stay connected, and build your database and keep your database. That's
And social media now makes it a lot easier to do that, right? LinkedIn, or you using a lot of different systems to build your database these days?
I think if there's something I've lacked or a mistake that I have made in my career, I didn't start with a great database. Honestly, I'm going to sound so old here, but I mean, I don't know if the first year I used a computer. I don't know if I used a computer until I was into the business for a couple of years. So I just had like a little cards that I would write all my notes on. So I should have had a better database and maintained that database, because I've done so many deals. And if you've done a deal with someone, that's a very nice, warm lead. And if you don't follow up with that warm lead, someone else will. And so I've lost a lot of business by just being, and I consider myself very organized. And I think that's a key to being successful in this business. But I felt that if I was just more organized initially, I think I'd be even more successful. So
that's really good advice for the newcomers out there.
Yep.
Get organized.
And LinkedIn's great. That's really the only thing I use. And frankly, we have a marketing person that does a lot of it for me. I'm getting better at it, but I still need to be way better at that. It's good it's cool to post, but I'm just not confident enough to post that much. I mean, it's amazing how some people really get their name out, and it's great. I've got people all over because of some of my organizations, I have people all over the country now, and it's great to see what they're doing and stay connected with them. And so I need to do that better. So that's something I need to work on.
All of us, we could all be a little bit better with it, I'm sure. You mentioned organization, right? And also Joe Rogan. So I always like to ask this question. He's big on the daily habits. What sort of daily habits are you doing day to day? Doesn't have to be CRE related, although of course it can be. What
Yeah.
What's kind of
I
your
live
system
kind of a
like?
boring life that, just a routine. I get up, generally go to the gym. Um, you knock it out first thing in the morning, and then you're done with the day with the gym. And then, unfortunately, and then I just jump. I like to spend as much time with the family and the kids, because they're not going to be around for
Mhm.
forever. And so I really dedicate, um, after the gym, the next half an hour or so with the kids, and then from there, unfortunately, I just go to work and I just grind out the day until it's
Mhm.
the end of the day, and then I try to spend it with the kids and play a little pickleball. Um, and then, at night, I try
Nice.
to do a little bit. When you're in the daily grind, it's tough to, you work in your business, but not on your business. And so when it's a little
Mhm.
quieter, I like to reflect and try to work a little bit on my business and what I can do to
Mhm.
make Citywide better, not just tomorrow, but, for the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever. I believe in the Japanese saying Kaizen, which is incremental daily improvement. I mean, if you can just, you don't have to move mountains, but if you just do a little bit better each day,
Mhm.
after a year, man, you're so much better. So, so anyway, kind of a boring answer there, but
No, it's good. It sounds like you're very like regimented, right? You follow kind of a very similar
yeah,
pattern day to day. I like that a lot. We like to
yeah,
say
exactly.
1% better every day too. Yeah,
Regimented
so
sounds a little better than boring,
yeah,
so I love
I
it.
love
Thank you.
it. Okay, so switching topics a little bit to something I'm sure all of our listeners want to deep dive into. Let's talk about industrial, right? So with 25 years of experience in the sector, you've obviously seen all kinds of cycle shifts. So right now, what is your kind of 35,000-foot overview of the industrial sector? Let's talk about Phoenix and then in
Yeah,
particular as
so
well as nationally.
real estate is really local, right? And so I really focus on the Phoenix market.
Mhm.
I think nationally, I think that industrial is fantastic. It's doing extremely well, and I think that nationally, we're going to do very well over the next, I don't know, let's say the next 10 years, because of all the reshoring and all the manufacturing
Mhm.
coming back, and the world's changing. I mean, we're not. It's not all China, not China, China, China. It's
Mhm.
Mexico. They're our largest trading partner now, I believe, and Canada is a great trading partner.
Mhm.
So I think you're going to see a lot more regional transactions, and so nationally, I think we're doing great, and I think that industrial will still continue to do well, and
Mhm.
just with all the fulfillment centers and online activity, sales. I mean, I don't go to the I don't go I don't think I've done anything at a store. This microphone I just bought on Amazon and I got it in 24 hours. So I don't do anything at a store. So
Mhm.
so I think that is just going to happen, and COVID really kind of helped that, helped
Mhm.
that transition. I mean, you look at the person that really liked to go to the shop, go to whatever Kohl's or the mall and buy something. Well, they're not doing that anymore. They've discovered how easy it is online,
Mhm.
and so I think that they're going online. They're like, wow, I've saved all this time. I can go play pickleball, and so I think it's really
Mhm.
increased everyone's lifestyle and really helped the industrial market. So I think industrial is going to be great on a national level. Um, I think that Phoenix has such a great growth story that um, that we have a very long runway. I mean, our proximity to California,
Mhm.
which is the fourth largest economy in the world, our proximity to Mexico, um, Texas. I mean, we are we are just
Mhm.
we're we have a lot of we have a lot of land, not as much land as we thought we once had. I remember back in the in the
Mhm.
90s and early 2000s, it's like, wow, there's so much land. Are we ever going to run out of land? Now a lot of our land is developer controlled, or we're bound by the Indian reservation or federal land. So we are more land constrained than I think we ever thought we would be. And so, but I think with Arizona, our infrastructure, our politics, um, our lack of natural disasters, I think there are just so many positives. I am so bullish on Arizona um, for the long term. In the near term, I think it's a tale of two product types. Well, they're both industrial, but if you look at the small under 100,000 square foot size spaces, that is very strong. I mean, I think we have, and my company has, I think, 6 million square feet of that product type, and we're at about 99%, 98 or 99% occupied. We're renewing tenants, we're expanding tenants. And when we do get a vacancy, we're backfilling that vacancy with someone from Chicago or someone from California or wherever. Our market still looks, I don't want to say cheap, but very affordable compared to California. I mean, California, they'll come over and they'll say, "Wait a minute, I can get that space for that price. I'll take double the size." And so, anyway, so we have so that's that space, 0 to 100,000 feet, very strong. Even the 100 to 300, I think, is still decent. Amazon came into our market. They've been in our market, but they've recently signed about 3 million square feet of deals, thankfully, because we have 41 million square feet still coming online this year. And our, I mean, the Southeast Valley, I believe, I shouldn't say that Southeast, it's the Mesa Gateway market, has about 33% vacancy, and I think that's probably going to get up to 50%. So that there are basically two large areas of Phoenix with a tremendous amount of new construction, and that's, we'll call it the West Market, which is around the 303 up the 303 loop, just north of I-10 to Glendale, and then the Southeast Market, or around the Mesa Gateway Market. And there's so much space, so much product coming online that, and unfortunately, I think demand has slowed down for that. There's enough CFOs and CEOs saying, "Okay, I mean, let's pause, let's take a pause. I mean, it's an election year. Maybe there's a recession, maybe there's not going to be a recession, but the interest rates are not helping. Inflation's not coming down quite as fast as we thought, and so I think we're going to have a few years of supply there." I think that a lot of those developers have some pretty deep pockets, and I think that if you broadcast this in Detroit, maybe I'll get some hate mail, but I always say that we're not Detroit. We're growing. We have a great growth story, and so I think that space will ultimately be absorbed. Right? It's just going to take. I think it's going to take
just maybe a little bit
predicted.
That makes a lot of sense. What kind of companies are you seeing that are filling the space currently? What are kind of the lease terms looking like? Like, what's kind of going on in the local market right now?
Back during the Great Recession, let's say back 2008 to 13, before the Great Recession, our economy was really built on residential growth. And I think the statistic was that 16% of all industrial space was based on something to do with the home building, cabinetry, plumbers, electricians, all that. And that changed during the Great Recession, and a lot of those companies went away. Now the new and improved Phoenix economy, we're a lot more diverse. And so we see a myriad of different, I mean, you name it, they're coming here. I mean, we have a lot of battery companies. We have a lot of fulfillment companies. You just every single, we have a lot of machine shops. I mean, we just have a very nice, diverse economy. And with Taiwan Semiconductor, I believe that was the largest foreign investment in U.S. history. And they just increased that to 65 billion for a total build. So that is a huge catalyst of growth for us. And so what that does, I mean, it's great. It's great for Taiwan Semiconductor, but I mean, what that does is the economic multiplier with the jobs. I mean, I'd heard there's between 6,000 and 10,000 jobs all over, paying over $100,000 a job. So, those people will need a home, and when they buy a home, they'll need landscaping, they'll need plumbing services, they'll need HVAC, and so all those in just Taiwan Semiconductor, they need all these other suppliers and ancillary companies that support Taiwan Semiconductor will need a home. Data centers are a big one. I showed a property the other day to a company that does piping just for data centers. I mean, it's that much growth, and so it's not the data center that I'm doing business with, but it's the supplier, and so I just see that's. I don't know why we're going to stop. I mean, I think let's hope that we have our water. I think we do. I mean, water's not a problem. I mean, there's a national narrative. There was a narrative out there last couple of years saying, "Oh, Arizona's going to run out of water." That's just bogus. We've done a lot of work with water management, and as a matter of fact, there's a statistic out there that says that I think we use about the same amount of water that we used in 1950 something. So, so what happens is everyone says, "Oh, wow, your growth, you've added all these people." Well, yeah, we have added people. We've added industrial buildings. We've added a lot of other uses of the land other than agriculture. So agriculture takes up about 80% of all of our water. And so as we're taking ag and we're converting the ag land into industrial land, our water actually our water requirements is actually reduced. So, I mean, you kind of feel bad for the farmer growing cotton in Arizona, but should we be growing cotton in Arizona? I mean, it's a lot of water.
Does it grow well there?
So I think that power is kind of a big deal, but I think that's a big deal nationally. But data centers. I mean, it's tough to get power. So that we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. But I mean, I still think we're in a great place for that. I mean, solar's fantastic. A lot of our electrical production is from the Palo Verde nuclear facility. Also, a lot of natural gas production. They use natural gas to produce electricity. So, I mean, we have a really good infrastructure. So, that's why again I'm so bullish on Arizona for the long term. Yeah, we're gonna keep growing.
You're gonna keep growing. I love it. You mentioned something real briefly that I'd love to get your opinion on, which is the high rates right now, right? Which is a big factor for borrowers, for construction, right? What's your general sentiment about what's happening? Are people kind of slowing down, kind of waiting to see what happens after this year? Do you feel like the rates are really have slowed the market a bit, or are you seeing, there's still just so much demand?
I think Arizona is kind of a special place because of all of our growth. Like what I mentioned, the Taiwan Semiconductor, et cetera. But there has been a slowdown. Investment activity, I mean, people are paying cash. I mean, if they're in a 1031, they're going cash because, People used to use positive leverage. I mean, you buy a building at a 6 or 7 cap, but you're financing it 4 or 5%. I mean, so you get a nice lift there. That doesn't exist anymore. So you see a lot of cash deals, but again, I mean, the pricing in California is so high that the investor sells a
Right.
$5 million place out there, and they get for a very low cap, and they get they'll get a couple hundred basis points higher cap out in Phoenix, and they're paying cash. They're just not leveraging. And banks have pulled back a little bit.
Mhm.
I mean, the loan to values have come way down. I think banks are a lot more comfortable at the 50 to 60% loan to value deals on investments. Use your deals. I think one of our problems, we don't have a lot of inventory. There's not a lot of people that want to sell their real estate or have to sell their real estate. There's not a lot of stress in the market. And so you have a lot of buyers chasing very few properties. The buyers are being more selective, but but there just aren't that many properties to buy. And lenders love. I think that if a lender would tell you that if there's one kind of company they want to lend to, it's an industrial user in Phoenix, Arizona. There are so many lenders that just love that asset type. In SBA, I mean, there's a lot of SBA dollars out there. So, and the interest rates aren't terrible, and the lease rates are so high that it still makes a lot of sense to own. So, yeah.
I love that. Well, so now, like, thinking maybe, the second half of 2022 and beyond, what are some of the primary considerations that you have when advising your clients? What should they be looking out for?
So, I guess it depends on the size of user, right? If you're looking at a couple 100,000 square feet, I think the longer that person can wait, the better deal they're going to get. And I think but however, there are a lot of aggressive landlords out there saying, "I want to make your deal now." So, it's if I guess what I'm telling people, if you find a building that works for you, buy the building and pay the freight, pay the price, because you may not get another chance to buy that building, and there's a good chance someone else is right behind you willing to buy that building. If it's the quality real estate is selling really quick, and the lease rates. I mean, if I'm representing a tenant and it's a larger deal, I try to go for a longer term, because I think that there's a little bit of pressure on those lease rates on the bigger spaces. The smaller spaces, I mean, we're still advising tenants to sign longer term leases, because the supply hasn't been created for the smaller spaces. And if we keep seeing this demand, I think that inevitably prices for lease rates will be higher going forward. So if the space works for you, I mean, lock in for as long as you can.
I love it. Where in Phoenix? So obviously there's not enough space for, the kind of smaller inventory you were mentioning. Where do you feel like they're going to kind of go to build in the Phoenix market for that type of product?
I don't think they'll build because I just don't. If you're going to build that, you really have to build. You see all the new building for that kind of stuff farther east or farther deep west. And the problem is the numbers just don't justify. I've seen some projects on the east side of town that do work, but the price to construct a building right now is still so high, and I don't know if those prices will ever come down. I mean, I thought they would come down in the Great Recession, but they really didn't. So I don't. There's a lot of land prices have not come down. Building costs have not come down. So, I mean, it's tough to borrow. A lot of lenders don't want new construction. So I think if you're going to build the smaller stuff, you're going to go to the far west or the far east, um, and you're going to have to be patient
Hmm.
because it may take a while to get a good return on that investment based on just the cost to build and cost for everything else.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And so, given your specialized background, right, and all your expertise, I'm sure our listeners are really curious about some answers to a few rapid
No.
fire questions. Can I fire a few your way?
Yes.
Going to anyway. You told me to put you through it. All right. So, if you were given $50 million today and you had to invest it immediately, go to asset type, location. Why?
Yeah. It's tough to find deals, right? But if I'm going to do something, if I'm going to invest,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do something that I know, and that if I get into trouble, I can figure my way out of it. So I would definitely
Mm-hmm.
do what I know best, and that's the smaller, you know, multi-tenant industrial. And I think that I
Mm-hmm.
think I would do that anywhere I could find in the metropolitan Phoenix area. That's just what I know. I just think there's a great growth story. I mean, maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's some opportunities in Tucson, but I would try to I would try to sniff out an opportunity, a multi-tenant opportunity in the Metro Phoenix market, and I would have a lot of reserves just in case the market turned. But
Mm-hmm.
if I that's why I like to invest in. I always tell my investors invest in commercial real estate because versus let's say a stock, because if the market goes bad,
Mm-hmm.
I can't paint or relet Verizon, right? Verizon stock or Amazon stock, right?
Right.
But with a building, I can figure out how to,
True.
I can paint it, I can reconfigure it, I can move some tenants around, I can fix that problem. So
Mm-hmm.
so I guess multi-tenant, smaller bay, shallow bay stuff in Phoenix is what I think that's probably the best investment long term. Maybe I'm not an office guy,
Love that.
but I think it could be interesting
Oh.
to buy office if it's if you get a class A office in a well in a great location. I mean, that could be interesting. But I'll leave that to the
Mm-hmm.
office people. So I'm going to stick with my industrial. I can fix that.
All right, the first one. Okay, favorite tool or software that you
Well, of
use
course, it's
on the
Crexi.
job? What do you
It's
need every day?
Crexi. I mean,
Promise
I
this is
use
not
it
a
every
trick
day.
question.
I like Crexi a lot. I mean, we use it a lot, and it's great. It's getting better, better and better every day. So we really appreciate you. So thank you for that. Um, every day, I guess if it's just keep it simple. I mean, I use my Microsoft Outlook.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a super sophisticated database, but it kind of does the job for me. And I think that sometimes if I keep things simple, then I'll use them. But
Mm-hmm.
when they become too complicated, it takes too long
Sure.
to put all the data in. I don't use it as much. But if I keep it simple, so
Mm-hmm.
I use Microsoft. I'm starting to use LinkedIn more. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I, let's see.
Is Microsoft like your main client management tool, like for all
Yeah, a
your
little embarrassed to
contacts, or are
say
you
that,
using
but
something else for
yes,
that
that's
as well?
that's my
Oh,
main tool right now. I mean, a couple of my guys in the office are saying we should go to
love it.
Salesforce, and actually, a couple of my guys use RealNex, but um,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like what I'm comfortable with, and it works for now. Yeah.
Sure. If it's working, don't change
Well, yeah,
it. Love it. Okay, so what? Oh, I was going to say, what's the most common misconception about either your specific role, within commercial real estate or just the industry in general?
I think that it can look easy um, to someone from the outside. I
Mm-hmm.
think it can. And a lot of people get into it and say, wow, I mean, all these brokers are doing so well. And really all they're doing is just selling that building, and they've made this huge commission. But what they don't see is all the time, that all the dedication, all of the no's, all of the, I mean, this is not a business you're going to get a nap pod and get to sit in a corner and then play ping pong for a few hours, and then and then write your program. That's not this kind of business. So I think that there are a lot of people that reach out and they get this age, they get a finance degree, or they get into the business. They say, oh, I want to just own real estate and do the analytical part of it and become a developer and become this investor and rule the world. And really it's a tough grind, and you really have to, like people and network, and it's not, networking is not necessarily easy. I mean, if you like it, it's easy, but but it's still not just easy to do. You still have to put an effort. So, I mean, even I don't know if I'm jumping off topic here, but you made me think about even this podcast is my first podcast, and I could have said, no, I don't want to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to sound stupid. I probably do sound stupid, but I figured if you don't do it, if you don't push yourself, then you're not going to grow. And so, get your name out. And so anyway, so I'm kind of all over the place, but
no, it's true. You have to put yourself out there, right? Like networking, you really have to put in the work to get out there.
It was
happy you came on.
It was the misconception.
That
was
your first podcast.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest. And also another misconception. I have so many friends in this business. I mean, it's a competitive business, and I liken it, even though I've never really played basketball, but I watched a lot of basketball. It's almost like a professional basketball game, right? Where you have two guys going for the ball. Their job is to score, and they're going to get rough sometimes. And our business gets rough, and you're going to throw an elbow by accident. You don't intentionally mean to elbow your buddy, but you may do that just because you're trying to score. As long as you can leave the court and shake hands afterwards and be buddies and say, hey, I was just going for the ball. It's same in our business. I mean, I don't know if I have any enemies in this business, and I work really hard to be very friendly to everyone in the business, because you don't ever want to destroy your reputation by lying or being a bad guy. And it's a lot what you know, and you will learn, but it's really who you know too, and building a good team and building good relationships. And so when you do accidentally throw that elbow, they know it's not intentional, and you're like, hey, you're a broker. You're just doing what's right for your clients. You didn't do anything wrong, but that hurt a little bit. So anyway, so the misconception is that we're all just cutthroat, and we're not, right? We're it's really the friendlier you are, the more cooperative you are, the better I think you're going to do in this business. So be honest, be cooperative, be nice, and I think you'll do really well.
I love that you shared that, because you do deals together, right? I mean, you be representing two different sides. Basketball analogy is great. I haven't heard that one before.
I'll tell you what, I have a saying. I have a saying with my guys. Co-broke or grow broke. And that is not something you hear from a lot of brokers. A lot of brokers will say, I've got this juicy listing. I want to fill it myself. I'm going to get both sides of the commission. And I've never thought that. I thought, you know what? My job is, I'm more of a landlord listing agent. My job is, hey, I have a property. The landlord hired me to list this property, to fill the space. And I just want it filled. And if I can get all of my agent friends to bring me deals, then I'm going to fill it faster. And I've given up,
Right.
Don't be greedy in this business. If you're greedy, then I think your career is going to be short lived. So be prepared to co-broke, be prepared to take less of a fee and give more of a fee if it's right for your client. So I think that's important. Yes.
Co-broke or go broke. Good. Well, as we wrap up, are there any other parting words, maybe other than the co-broke or go broke phrase you want to share with our audience?
No, I think that our business really ebbs and flows, and you really have to love what you're doing. And if you don't love what you figure that out pretty quick, and then decide that you don't want to be in this business, because I've seen people just kind of struggle, and you can make a decent living in this business. But if you really want to be special and you really want to do something with your life, and you find that you love this business, what I love about this business is if you want to work 100 hours a week, you can, and you will be rewarded for that. If you choose to work 10 hours a week, you can do that too. But be prepared for the slow times. And there's another Latin phrase that I use to my guys. When there's no wind, row. And so luckily, Arizona, there's a lot of wind. We have a lot of momentum. There's a lot of activity. But when there isn't, you have to row, right? You have to get on that phone. You have to make the calls, make the dials, do what you need to do, because it does get tough sometimes, and it may get tougher soon. But for now, it's really good. But be prepared for that. So that's it. That's all the wisdom I have. You didn't even make me nervous enough to get out the Elon Musk. I didn't even have to use this.
You didn't get it out. Good. I wasn't too hard on you then.
That's not real. This is not really marijuana. I made that up. Yes.
PSA to the audience. Well, thank you so much, Todd, for joining us. We know you're super busy. We really appreciate you sharing your time and sitting down with us. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch?
Probably email's the best. It's pretty simple. Todd, TODD, at citywidecre.com. Yes.
Awesome. And you're on LinkedIn as well.
But I don't have a beard in that picture.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have a beard in that picture, man.
Media?
I might need to update that. But
you might need to. Get your marketing gal on that one. Awesome. Well, thank you so much also to everyone that tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss out on the next one. Visit crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. And of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.